So then, Jonathan, the World of Work project. What did you? What made you come up with this design?
I suppose you start with the artistic process, don't you? There's a lot of sketching, a lot of brainstorming, a lot of drawing from, like I say, it's quite a personal piece. So a lot of initial sketches of personal experiences and how that works. I mean, obviously, it is slightly different to what I do a lot at the moment, being that it's got a point to it. I don't mean that to sounds almost like my other work doesn't have a point to it, but I quite like things to look good. Maybe there's a decorative element in some of my work. I like to find a mood or a soul in someone or something to convey. But I think this piece had, because it was so about me rather than observing the world, it brought me back to my illustration roots, which was it was reliving a proper process of how to explain an idea, I think. So yeah, it started with a lot of sketches, brainstorming, going back to Yellow House and seeing what they thought, basically, which was very much a two-way process, because
yeah, in fact you did come up with a number of ideas, didn't you?
Yeah, there was a lot.
Quite impressed with your organisation, in so much as, in fact, we may at some stage make those available somewhere. But you produced at least four, I think, wasn't it?
Yeah, there was about out of pages of doodles and sketch work, as if you have any experience of the creative process, you'd probably be aware. There's about 4 or 5 different directions that could have gone in and explored, maybe. Some I think with my style, it's quite based on realism and how things actually work together, whether basically making things look right. So I had to draw the ideas, and it's quite a complicated scene that obviously wouldn't really work. But it's the idea of making it believable, making an idea live, and it's the frustration and complications of the piece that seemed important, I think, and maybe that comes across in how the piece works together. I mean, you either like the look of it or you don't, which is one thing, but the way that it's got a circle in itself, and it has got a story. That's probably the part of it that I spent the most time on.
Yes, I personally think it comes across okay. What decided you on choosing that particular style? Because there's certainly a touch of the old master about it, if you can say that.
Really nice you to say that. The style, for the way that I work, I don't know, I've struggled to find a style for myself, and I think everybody says that, and I think the answer is the style finds you at the end of the day. There's so many artists that I absolutely adore, but they don't work like I do, and this is just how it works for me. But the piece was there was a lot going on in a small, what should really be, and I think is now, quite a simple composition and a simple, bold piece. And I think when I started it, there was a lot going on. So I brought it in, and it's just a real simple idea of a light source and a figure doing what he does. And I think the darkness, the idea of coming out of the light, that's all you need for something like this. At the end of the day, that was how it worked, how it looked best, and how I felt the point came across.
Did was there an issue, and I've asked this question before actually, but was there an issue of, it was more a question of what to leave out rather than what to put in? Because did you feel there were elements that were there that?
It's such a big subject, and it's such for me and a lot of people that hopefully will directly relate to it. I mean, I'm expecting.
And not just them, but obviously the entire family. You know.
There's everybody that'll relate to it immediately and say that's me, and there's a lot of people that say I know him, and there's a lot of people that may never have thought about the whole dynamic of just not necessarily knowing where you're going or how to fit in or knowing what you want but not knowing how to get there.
Yeah, I can see that. You know, that does make you feel a little. It does make you feel naked. It does make you feel.
It's a vulnerable feeling.
Vulnerable,
it's the fact that you really. It's the traditional artist thing, and I never really believed it until I started to leave the education process. The typical starving artist cliche, and it's true. It literally where does your next meal come from in that sense, and how do you get there?
It's more difficult because it's a society these days that's very dismissive of someone that
it's a hobby to a lot of people. Yes. And the fact that it is a hobby, it's a life. It's everything. I mean, it takes over, and it is a hobby, but it is a job, and it's all encompassing. So to explain that to somebody sometimes is really hard work. It's not necessarily something that everybody has to hear or understand, but when somebody asks you how you feel about something, or how to explain that your life is driven by something like an addiction almost, and that you just feel that you have to do it. But when you haven't got, why don't you just get a job, or why don't you do this job, or this pays this wage? You can't explain why, but you could get paid so much more money doing something else that you can't begin to do. You can't understand how that process works in a similar sort of way that somebody might not understand why you want to put your neck on the line, basically trying to do something that you care about as much, maybe. It's not something you have to explain very often, and when you do, it's not always very easy to put it into words.
It's not something you're going to practice all very often, is it either?
No, definitely not.
If this is a real thing and not some slick sort of like some of the more famous people tend to have a very slick act.
I think a lot of successful people do put it all together, and I think maybe that's when you're confident in your skill, that you've got the time and the space maybe to focus on something else. And that side of it, it's definitely there's definitely several dynamics to doing. Having the skill or having the time to put into it is one side of it, definitely. But focusing on putting yourself out there and making sure that everybody knows you is something that is PR isn't something that a lot of the artists that I know that went to the side or didn't end up doing. It's because they don't do that, and it's something that I'm learning at the moment, I think.
Fair enough. I think as a final question then, is there anything about the piece that if you're starting all over again you'd change?
There's
no right or wrong answer.
I think it's with anything you can go on forever with something, but I think the point's made with it. I mean, the painting process for me is really organic, and to finish something, I think you could get to the end a lot quicker the next time. Sometimes you think that you can, but you've got to make the mistakes to get an effect, to have a look for something. So in that sense, no, I don't think I can say I'd paint this better and I'd paint that better and I'd work on that and stuff. But I think I'm happy with what it says, as long as people can read into it what I've put. I think that's what's important for me with this piece.
So the world of work then, a happy piece of art.
Yes.
Excellent. Thanks, Jonathan.
Thank you.